We continue our AARP New Jersey election coverage, and we're doing this kind of post-election, of course, breaking down what yesterday's results mean for communities across New Jersey and the policies that affect them most.
Joining us now is Mary Ciccone, Director of Policy at Disability Rights New Jersey. She is a leading advocate for the rights and inclusion of people with disabilities and has been a strong voice on protecting Medicaid and ensuring access to essential services across the state. Mary, welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You
All right.
bet.
So can we just talk a little bit about yesterday's election results, your immediate reaction, and what you think this outcome could mean for people with disabilities here in New Jersey?
Well, I think it's hard to say exactly. There's going to be a lot of issues that are going to have to be addressed with HR 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to have a big impact on the state budget. HR 1 is going to cost New Jersey a lot of Medicaid dollars and Medicaid services. Now, with the election going forward, Governor-elect Cheryl has talked about how she's going to address, HR 1 and trying to protect the most vulnerable in going forward. But it remains to be seen because there's only so many dollars that are going to be available. We're leading a coalition to try to educate lawmakers on ways to minimize the impact on the most vulnerable. In terms of trying to make sure that people who are subject to the community engagement / work requirements of HR 1 when they go into effect in December 2026, to make sure that they are not cut from Medicaid solely because they didn't provide the documentation.
Yeah.
And we've written.
No, I'm sorry to step on you. You can continue, Mary. I'm sorry.
Oh. No, we have my organization and our coalition has written to the state officials about ways to try to minimize that, such as gathering data, work data, income data from sources that they already have so that they know that they're already working, they're meeting the income requirements in terms of showing community engagement so that they don't have to show that. So it's automatically given, and that way they don't get cut because they don't provide the documentation, but the state already has that documentation to know that they're already meeting those requirements. Things like that can be done, one, to minimize the people that are being cut off who are eligible but who would otherwise be eligible but are being cut off because they didn't fill out the requirements, and two, also to cut down on the burdensome bureaucratic stuff that the state has to do, which costs the state as well.
Mm-hmm. And Medicaid, for instance, just one example, that's 40% plus, a little over 40% of the New Jersey state budget right now. That's a massive amount of money. But with the new federal requirements, that I'm sure is causing headaches for an awful lot of people. All of a sudden, you just see your benefits stop, thinking, what did I do wrong?
Exactly. And, we're not talking about people who are, have a lot of options. We're talking about people who the Medicaid expansion was for adults that are up to 135% or 38% of poverty. That's not a large number, especially in New Jersey. We have people who are disabled, who are on SSI, who are, Medicaid takes care of covers 50% of the children in New Jersey. So we're talking about very vulnerable people, and cutting their Medicaid services is going to be devastating for them.
Right. I mean,
Also,
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, when that's another question I was going to ask you. People think Medicaid, older people, but you talk about, younger people aging out of once they turn 18, the SSI, SSDI, a lot of those acronyms that are thrown out, how they are affected. And, people trying to navigate this. The services are available, but trying to cut through the red tape and understand what is owed to you, what you need to register for, when you need to register for, that alone can become a full-time job trying to figure things out. As a parent who has aging parents and, children, it's a lot to cut through. So as Mikey Cheryl starts to, begins to look at her first 100 days, what are some of the things that you would like her to focus on to help those most vulnerable?
Oh, there's so many. But yeah, one of the things is, you've got you're talking about when your child turns 18, or in New Jersey 21, once they age out of the
Right.
school. For people with disabilities, they age out of special education and into the adult system. Well, there's a big gap in services once they hit the adult services. So they call it the cliff, cliff service, basically, because there's not as many services once you get out of special education in schools. So to try to make sure that that doesn't happen and that there are appropriate services. And then you're talking about the other end for families who have elderly who are now living at home but need services.
Yeah.
Medicaid is the major funder of home and community-based services for people who want to stay in their home as they get older. Or if they need to go into a nursing home, Medicaid is the biggest funder for that. Without Medicaid, that is really going to hurt those people. And one of the big home and community-based services are optional services. So if the state has to cut services, one of the first things they always cut is home and community-based services, which forces people into nursing homes, which is actually more expensive than
this is
providing.
the thing.
Exactly.
This is the point, right? You fight for services for your children so that when they turn 18, 21, they're more self-sufficient, so they don't have to go into group homes. You have aging parents, you want to keep them in their home as long as possible, but the system is almost creating a way that it's pushing them to where it's going to cost so much more.
It's setting it up for failure, too, because you can only have so many people working a floor at a nursing home. You have 30 patients and only 5 nurses or aides. It's a pretty difficult task.
It is, and there's only so many beds in the state, and people don't want to live in nursing homes. They want to live in the home that they have lived their entire lives. 100%. They want to live with their families, and it is much less expensive to keep them in their homes. So, but if the state has to cut services, they can't cut nursing home services because it's a required mandatory service under federal law. Home and community-based services is what they call optional, so they can cut that. But it's going to cost the state more money because nursing homes are more expensive than keeping people in their homes. And that's what we need to really focus on and try to protect people so that they can continue to live in their homes and live in their communities with their families and friends.
Yeah.
And we're seeing numbers, we're seeing the next generation aging now, getting to that point. It's blossoming in terms of numbers. This is not getting smaller, this is getting larger. So we really need to get together and figure out a solution ASAP, because 10 years from now, you're going to have an aging population that's much larger than it currently is.
People are living longer,
sure
with advances in pharmaceuticals and treatment.
Well, you look at the generation right now, it's the baby boomers who are now hitting that point. And my generation, which is Generation X, we are a much smaller number of people. So it's going to be really problematic that there's going to be a lot of need for services for the elderly going forward.
Yeah. So looking ahead, can you just talk a little bit about what hope when it comes to where New Jersey is headed, when it comes to inclusion, accessibility, equity for people with disabilities? People in that sandwich generation like us, we're X generations. We have people who are aging. What can we do now? To better prepare. If you have people also, with disabilities who need to be protected.
Well, I've been in this business for 27 years. I've been doing this a long time. And I will say that New Jersey has come a long way in terms of inclusion for people with disabilities. People are being included in schools more, and they're being placed in more inclusive settings. And they find that if people are included in schools, then they spend more of their lifetime included in the community. The rise of group homes and different options besides developmental centers or psychiatric hospitals has been phenomenal since I've started doing this work. And again, at the other end, people are receiving more home and community-based services so they can live in their homes as they get older. So there has been a big improvement in inclusion. However, we've got a long way to go. And it's really important, and that's something we've been fighting for many years, because inclusion means participation in society. It means being in, working in competitive integrated employment. It
100%.
means being part of your community, going to the local churches, going
and not just warehoused, and not being warehoused. You want to be part. That's the whole point of life, and that's what we want to strive for. I didn't mean to cut you short, Mary, only because we're at the end of the show. But Mary Ciccone, Director of Policy at Disability Rights New Jersey, you do such a great job for so many people who need you. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Well, thank you for having me.
You bet.